The sixth expression of Aries, 26 to 30, is called proficiency. So in the previous expression, we've learned about progression, not standing on our laurels of attainment, which we had earlier, moving forward all the time, moving forward, progression. And inevitably that leads us to be proficient. So we're studying how proficiency expresses itself in the 5 degrees. The 26th degree of Aries is the man who's got more gifts than he can hold, more possessions than he can hold. He's taken progression to the point where he knows how to make it all work. He can do pretty much anything. And the 26th degree is the question that each of us puts to life. At what am I proficient? What can I do? Where are my talents? I can do any number of things excellently well, and some things I can't do. Now, I tried to learn playing the flute once. I can't do it. I tried to play the guitar. I can do that. So I became good with numbers, but I'm not so good with cooking, and so on. So there are certain things that I just can't do. I tried, but I just can't get it. But other things I can do, I'm really good at that, potentially. So the test we put into life is to develop as many of our talents as we can, knowing that we've actually got more available in potential than we can hold on to. So we do have to make some choices here. And what happens in 27 is that we understand that we lose some opportunity by making those choices. So we can regain what we have lost in the imagination. Now that's not just fantasy speculation, it's more than that. If you had trained in something, but you didn't, you trained in something else, by training in something else, you get to this level of mastery where you can apply mastery wherever you apply your attention. So if you have to choose between whether to be good at this or that, choosing one means that you're going to become masterly at one of them. And then you can apply that same degree of mastery to the other one, the one that you felt was a lost opportunity later. And you can actually regain that because you can imagine how it would have been had you gone through the training. We don't have to train in everything. We have to train in something to develop mastery and then apply that mastery to whatever we put our attention on. So that you ought to be able to learn a new skill pretty quickly once you've got an old skill down. And not all of them, of course, but within your range of talents. And in fact, within our current era, you don't really influence the world very much unless you've got several strings to your bow. It's not enough just to be this. You have to be this, that, and the other to actually get the width and the depth of a situation. So I'm, for example, skilled now in astrology because that was a big thing that I did. But I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now had I not also taken on a few other things, like to train in Sufism and writing even, and so on. So I had to learn a batch of talents and try and get to the level of mastery with a range of talents. And I think that's a general principle indicated by 28 Aries. Now, 27 Aries. In 28 Aries, this is Charlie Chaplin, the disappointed audience, Charlie Chaplin's sun sign here. And here was a guy who was like absolutely the best in the world throughout history almost at a certain new thing, visual entertainment, shortly after cinematography was invented. And he was absolutely popular everywhere, right up until the end. And then towards the end, he started to disappoint his audience. And this does seem like a negative on the face of it, but it's not. We understand that you have to go through that if you are to be freed of the needy attachment to pats on the head. To get really good at something, you inevitably have to get feedback. And eventually that feedback is saying, oh, well done, James. Very good job. Pats on the head to you, James. And that's a juice. That gives you a nice feeling inside that you want more of. When people like my videos and say nice comments on my videos, I feel good. I want more of that. And that becomes a habit. I habituate myself to the fix of getting approval from my audience. And you got to give that up. If you're really on the task of realization, you have to be free from censure and reward of the public. You have to do what you know is right, whether or not people approve of it. And so Aries 28 teaches us this. And it's hard. It's a hard knock. You have to disappoint your audience. Think about Bob Dylan, the only Nobel laureate in his field, the field of pop music, which has been the dominant force in the world for a very long time. The only person ever to get a Nobel Prize for that. Disappointed his audience terribly when he moved from acoustic music to electric music. It was a big thing in the day, you know. Sounds trivial now. But it's not only entertainers either, you know. Anyone has to go through this watershed event of stopping the neediness for public approval to move out of that realm into a freedom of expression. Now, the image in Aries 29 is the celestial choir. And we seem to be moving a long way away from the track of our thinking with this. And yet, it's understood that once you have given up worldly praise and blame as motivators, you move into the celestial choir vibration. And it's not actually very different from a real choir, you know, in a church or something. If you actually learn how to sing in harmony with a group of people, you get into that spiritual state of being. And you kind of tune in to the fact that the angelic realms don't communicate in philosophical concepts. They communicate through the language of music. It's kind of metaphorical and kind of not. The music that we have on Earth has, of course, got sound and rhythm and disciplines of that kind. Whereas the music that we're talking about is that energy field which gives rise to the music on Earth. So the celestial choir, it's called the cherubim. The certain beings of light at the very kind of highest level of the archangels, their function in life is simply to praise God, to say wow throughout eternity, and to sing it in such a way that if you hear it, you go like, wow. And don't we all want that? I mean, awe, wonder, a sense of being in touch with the unbelievably magnificent beingness of life itself, which we can see in nature, and we can see sometimes in a baby or a storm, and we're just like, wow. Now that's the celestial choir, only it's saying it not in this word of wow or this human emotion of wow. It's saying it in the way that God says it. And if you want to know what it sounds like when God says, wow, just look at life, look at stars and nature and streams and rivers and rainfall and snowstorms and babies crying and babies laughing. There it is. That's God saying, wow. And this is what Aries gets to understand, having gone through all of its process up to this point, is like the little I that once was so very important to me emerged and found drive and got to a level of attainment, and then got into further movements forward, and through the sense of honor it developed, knows that you can never make it. You have to progress all the time, and this is what gives you the real proficiency to understand what to do now that you've got this mystery of the divine awe of beingness. So what do you do with it? I think one thing wasn't made clear when I spoke earlier in Aries 27, the idea of success and failure. That if I do that, I will be successful, and if I do that, I will lead to failure. This has been reevaluated, and we need to understand that success and failure really don't exist. Life is trial and error, and our purpose here is to get to the point where we understand that our success is that we're motivated to try something. That's success. The motivation to succeed is success. And if that leads to a disappointing conclusion, that's a part of it. That's the large disappointed audience. That's a part of our success, is in leading to disappointment. Because if you continue to please people, then you haven't learned that lesson to detach yourself from the public's opinion. And we get to this image of the divine choir, the celestial choir, singing only when we're no longer looking for public acclaim, and we're actually looking for something beyond all of that. So when we do that, when we hear the music of the spheres, when we notice the flow of life, it's all around us. It's not up there in the stars where I'm looking. It's in events that occur around us, mundane events. The sound that we're talking about is not a choir really. It's just visual. It's as well as auditory. It's feeling as well. It's the atmosphere. It's the zeitgeist. It's life here and now where you're experiencing it. That's the celestial choir, and you can hear it as a melody or experience it as that to which you want to dance. When you choose to do that, when you've attained to this level and you've become proficient at living, this is the whole thing. Proficiency of living is simply knowing how to dance to the music of life. There are times when you do the washing up, times when you go to the dentist, times when you do some artwork and to play the guitar, and times when you discipline a child, and it's all a part of the dance. You know, it's not necessarily all fun, it's not all surrender, it's not all struggle, it's just all of it. That's the dance. And when you're actually proficient at allowing yourself to be an expression of the music of life, then you understand, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? Aries 30 tells you. The duck pond with her brood. As in Zen, you know, what you do when you're enlightened, you carry water and you chop wood. Here's a duck. What's her job? It's a mother duck. She needs to look after her kids, ducklings. If it was a tiger, it would have to kill its prey to feed its family. If it was an architect, it would have to balance beauty and form, functionality and form. If it was an accountant, it would have to balance debit and credit. If it was a doctor, it would have to do everything he could or she could to bring healing where there was suffering. We've all got our roles, and every situation, every scenario has got its appropriateness. And to demonstrate our high state of being able to dance to the rhythm of life, we simply have to do what's in front of us right now. And we have to do it well. And what does well mean? You tell me, you show me, show us all. What does doing it well mean for you? Are you somebody who does it beautifully, or quickly, or efficiently, or for all time? What's your way of doing things? Well, that's your business. That's your life. There's no legislation about that. But if you happen to be a mother duck, then you take care of your ducklings. Aries 30, you just do the appropriate thing in an appropriate way. And demonstrate worldly competence as a spiritual practice.